Hello and welcome to Talk Story to Me. James has agreed to join me once again, and today we're going to be talking about Star Trek Beyond. In fact, actually, I think he's going to be joining me for all the movies, well, some of them, and not necessarily the books, but...
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Well... Alright, sweetheart. So, starting off with the biases, you want us to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Alright, so... As far as biases, I grew up watching Star Trek, or tapes of the original series. Next Generation came out right as I was growing up. Deep Space Nine was right there as I was starting to get into middle school, a little bit out of the initial Star Trek phase, but then got back into it later on in law school. So growing up, I've loved the Star Trek series. Really liked the first remake movie when it came out. The second one was a little disappointing, and so I wasn't quite sure what to expect coming into this one, especially since, well, J.J. Abrams is still attached to it, or at least a name, and so I didn't know what to think of how much of a role he still had in this movie. So I was sort of not sure what to expect with this movie at first.
My biases are I like Star Trek and Star Wars. Got into the original series later, my first Star Trek series, and my absolute favorite was Star Trek Next Generation. And for this one, let's see. So yeah, we're one of those odd sets of people that apparently doesn't exist who likes both Star Trek and Star Wars. But I know there's more of us out there. Anyway, I like both of them. I suppose other relevant biases would be, I enjoyed the first reboot to a certain extent. I still had some issues with it and the way it was portrayed and where the story went. But that's me. The second one I was enjoying for the most part up until, Star Trek Into Darkness I was enjoying up until about the last 15 to 20 minutes, at which point I wanted to grab the writer and do this, which is illegal. I had very, very low expectations for Star Trek Beyond. I didn't think the previews looked particularly good. It was kind of giving me a little bit of a hardcore Guardians of the Galaxy vibe in part of it, which was not much of a selling point. And funny thing is, and actually I guess another relevant bias, we just watched the 2016 Ghostbusters, which was not a very good movie. So bearing in mind all of that, low expectations, just watched a bad movie, now going to watch this. We liked it.
Yeah, we did.
It was my favorite one out of the Star Trek reboot original series movies.
Yeah. Nice. All right, that done with biases?
That's done with biases.
All right.
So as far as the characters go in this, it felt like they really were meshing this time. Not that they weren't before, but there's an added energy.
Yes, that basically these characters, instead of being pulled along by the plot, like it was very obvious in the second Into Darkness, that the characters were sort of being pulled along by the plot. Here, they actually took time to breathe, interact with each other, that held very true to the spirit of the original, while at the same time becoming their own Star Trek crew. Mm-hmm. Even though they had the same names as the original cast, they played off of each other very well in a way that made it distinct, but at the same time honoring the original, which is very important for a remake series, and that makes this very strong.
Yeah, I enjoyed the character interactions significantly. Jayla, one of the new characters, was a very good character, I thought. I was so glad to realize that I did hear correctly, that it was Idris Elba's voice. I thought I was losing my mind a little bit because I hadn't read the Internet Movie Database release on that. So yeah, that when you're like, I know that voice, and then you realize, yes, you do.
Yep.
The only character who really I felt kind of got shafted with in terms of character development was really Ahora. She had the weakest scenes and the weakest moments in the movie, and really didn't have much to do. And we'll get into that a little bit more with the plot. But all the other characters, they seem to be doing really well. I particularly enjoyed Bones and Spock's interactions. I was a little bit concerned at first that they were going to lose that connection when they took Into Darkness, where they did. But yeah, it's there, it's developing, and seeing Spock develop his sense of humor.
Yes.
That was very nicely played.
Yeah, and actually going back a few more specifics on Jayla's character, a lot of women characters have either been criticized for being either too strong or not emotional enough, or feeling very much like they weren't a character, that they were just a caricature of some sort of ideal. This Jayla character feels very complete. She, can shoot with the best of them with her traps, survival instinct. She basically, you put her in any universe and she's awesome. But then there are a couple of really genuine moments where you see the heart of this character, and not just in a sympathetic backstory, but in her reaction to the backstory, and the backstory informing why she's behaving the way that she is now. And that made the character feel very, very complete, and something that really a step forward for female characters being written these days.
Yep, she was a very interesting character. Let's see. Others who were interesting. I think Chris Pine is really embracing the role of Kirk. They added in humor throughout. In fact, there were more laughs in this movie than there were in Ghostbusters 2016.
Yep.
People seem to really be engaged with it. The best part was the cinematography.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I guess that's another relevant bias. This is also the first of the rebooted Star Trek movies we've seen in theaters. At least mine.
Wait,
did you see?
Yeah, I saw the first Star Trek remake in theaters, and so that was...
And you didn't take me.
It was before we met.
Still doesn't count.
It was 2008.
Should have called me.
If I had known you had existed back then.
Anyway, okay, so James has seen the first one on in theaters. I didn't. So this is my first...
Didn't we go to see Into Darkness in theaters?
Did we?
I could have sworn we did.
Oh, now we're going to have one of those couples moments.
Yes.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe it was, but I don't remember. I thought we watched it and I made Hawaiian chicken.
That was, let's see, Into Darkness.
It's okay.
Came
This
out,
is irrelevant.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That was irrelevant.
Anyway.
Point being, I thought the cinematography was really good, and watching it on the large screen, you really get a sense of scale. I enjoyed the way that you kind of get the claustrophobia of the way this ship is when it's under attack, and you realize what an incredibly dangerous place it is to be in a starship when it's under attack. And they've really moved it up. So instead of everyone going, "Whoa, whoa!" I mean, they're flipping the ship around, they're tearing it up, corridors are being ripped apart.
Playing with gravity,
yes.
Which is something a lot of space epics don't do, or don't do very well.
And I think Into Darkness did play with the gravity as well. I think all of them have, but I think the effects were stepped up.
Right, I mean, other sci-fi movies like of this scale. Like, Prometheus, you never really got messed with the gravity at all, even when they were in space. And some others. So, but this series has done a good job of working and playing with gravity, realizing that gravity is not fixed straight down. You can really have some fun moving it in different directions. And this movie does play with gravity a lot, but it works within the movie. So they did a very good job of it without it seeming like an excessive gimmick.
Yeah, and the visual effects, like when they're going through warp, when they're traveling through the star systems. Of course, granted, I can look at pictures of stars for hours and hours, and nebulas, and space phenomenon. It's incredible. So they really captured that quite well, and you could see... we didn't see it in 3D, but we did see it on a very large screen. I can see why a lot of people are saying see it on IMAX or 3D. It looked like, from what we could see, there were enough elements and shots and styles to make it worth the experience. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, they definitely play with gravity all the way through this. But now it's time for the plot, because, okay, this is where I do have some issues with it, but you can go first, so that I don't rant.
Alright, so with the plot, I thought the plot was well constructed, easy to follow. That at the same time you had a couple of twists that you could tell they were planting the seeds for, but you weren't quite sure how they were going to follow through on it, which helped keep the suspense, but at the same time not help you think, wait, what just happened? Now, so there was a lot of good stuff going on, and the way that they carried out the plot. A couple of times there were some scenes where you almost feel, okay, there's a lot of talking here. Then again, it's a Star Trek movie, so you're gonna have a good bit of talking, but at the same time, they balanced it out very well. So you have scenes of talking where they sit, catch their breath, and say, okay, we're digging into something here, into someone's personality and dynamics. We're not gonna rush it. We're gonna sit here. We're gonna take we're going to take enough time to do what we need to do with it, and then move on to the action, so it doesn't feel like one is overwhelming the other.
So I did have some problems with the plot. There's a lot of convenience in this movie, and I enjoy suspending my disbelief. That's essential. Although, we have a funny story to tell from the previews, but I will get to that in a moment because I don't want to interrupt this point, which is quite good, I hope. Anyway, there were just a few too many. Just in the nick of time. Oh my goodness, that was a 1 in a trillion shot, which was not set up, not really, and so.
Then again, it is a Star Trek movie. Convenience with scientific mumbo jumbo. That's sort of one of the staples.
It's so easy to set it up. I'm not giving them a pass.
And
I still think it was a good movie, but I'm not going.
We'll agree to disagree.
Yes. All right. Also, the villain's plan had a huge error that hopefully most people could spot, such as, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to reveal this part. I'm not revealing the big twist, but I'm going to reveal this part. Yes, I am.
Destruction of the universe, sort of?
No, I wasn't going to reveal that.
Oh.
He wants a device, this little device. It's about like this big. It's like a flour cookie cutter. It's kind of what it looks like, one of those flour sugar cookie cutters. Anyway, he wants this device, and they're tearing the Enterprise apart. You saw that in the previews. They're tearing the Enterprise apart. This little tiny device, and they're tearing the ship apart. This ship is being disintegrated, and that was a very cool sequence, but I'm thinking, if I were a villain, I would not destroy a ship until I got the little tiny piece that I needed, because how easy would that be to be sucked out into space? And it's not like it seems to have a unique signature that they can just lock onto it and beam it out. So, sure. The villain, I like him and I don't at the same time, but not because he's not likable, but just because it was not...
Then again, they do explain some things later on in the movie that does inform some of what's going on and give plausible reasons for why the villain would have done things the way that he did without coming out and just saying it.
It's a stretch.
It's a stretch, but the material is there.
Okay, here's my other issue. Ahura should have been dead. There was no reason given for the kind of character that we have with the villain why he didn't kill her. At least I couldn't see any. And, on the one hand, so it's when you take those things, and not that I want Ahura to die, I actually want to see her do more things. So on the one hand, I'm relieved that she's alive, but no reason was given, and they could have made it so simple.
And she's wearing a red uniform. So I know it's not the original series, but yeah,
it's based off of it. She could have done so much more. But the issue that I have with the plot motivations and then the plot twists and the plot itself really kind of meander. This one is really buoyed along by the strength of its characters and really good dialogue at some points, and then at others really bad dialogue. Usually with Ahura and Crawl, and there were a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy similarities. Which was, you're not necessarily thinking, but it's like a Crawl who wants to destroy all life. And a Kree, is it Kree fanatic?
Yes, Ronan was a Kree.
A Kree fanatic. They're both blue. They're both blue. They both incorporate
and let's not
old
forget,
music.
And it's hard to, when you realize that Zoe Salanda plays both Uhura and Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy, that comparison it's very hard to not think, wait, is this Gamora here, or is this Uhura in Guardians of the Galaxy?
Even when they're going up to this space station, the way that it's structured, the protective shield is very similar to what they put up in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Only Guardians of the Galaxy was purple.
No, theirs was gold.
Gold, you're right.
Yes.
But yeah, space age, multiple geometric interlocking shapes.
You in colors.
Yeah.
Anyway, stop that.
Okay, in case you didn't see, a hanger just jumped around the corner of the room into this one, and we know the cats are involved. I'm just wondering how.
Oh, they're just playing. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, and not that it's the same. It just had some where it kind of reminds you a little bit of that, but
at the same time, it's not a bad thing. Guardians of the Galaxy was a fun space adventure movie with some danger, a world at stake. Yeah. So there's a lot of similarities, and so they're trying to do a lot of the same things, and so some similarities are to be expected.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it was just funny. So they're like, oh, creak, crawl, blue, blue. Associations, it's fun.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, and there are some really cool sequences in this. There is a scene that involves a motorcycle, which was nicely executed. They incorporate some music, which the music kind of pulled me down. I kind of wanted a better song choice.
And
I personally, we've been talking about what songs we would use. I kind of think "Living on a Prayer" would have been cool.
And so yeah, so if you go see the movie in the final
and then come
final
back and tell us what song you think it should be.
Comment, do whatever this forum allows you to do.
I won't discuss that further. But let's see other important things. Yeah, pacing overall was pretty good. There were a couple transitional shots where you sort of like, what happened? Okay, something happened in here. My favorite, and again it was with Ahora. We were like, okay, well, what happened there?
Right, yeah, there was that one shot where you like, wait,
how did that happen?
How did she get here? Why isn't she where she was before? And because she was clearly in a different portion of this camp than the rest of the crew were being held at.
This is one of those. It was all, it was enough to make you kind of chuckle. But anyway, by and large, it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again. The plot and the writing needed more work, and it could have worked. It's just they didn't, and I don't know why they didn't.
Right.
It was. Oh, and also I will tell you, it is very predictable, but I don't think it necessarily in a bad way. I thought it was.
But then again, you have movie ESP, where you can predict the outcome of movies, even if they. I bet you could predict a Shyamalan twist.
But they're easy. They're not
they
Sixth
don't,
Sense. But anyway, well, that's another
discussion. Yes. Anyway,
most people were able to predict The Village.
Well, right. But point being, you have an super ability to do that. Yeah.
All right. I was able to see most of the twists coming. I don't think they were that complicated. I think they could have been worked in much better. Now, funny story for the movie. When we got there, there was a kid sitting just a little bit to my left. And he was on his phone watching the Comic-Con preview drops. And and he's sitting there. Of course, he's leaned back and he's got his feet propped up on the chair in front of him. You know, in that typical teenager pose. And he's watching the Kong Skull Island trailer come down. And he finishes it and he shakes his head. He's like, that's not a real gorilla. That's just going to be CGI because nothing's real in movies anymore. I asked him, said, do you mean as in they're not using a model? He's like, oh no, he's like, it'll be models and CGI. He's like, they didn't find a gorilla that big.
If you've seen an actual gorilla that big, kid, then I'm impressed.
It was just, I found it funny, and then the preview started and we couldn't continue the conversation, but that was, that I think that's probably the funniest comment I've heard about that preview. It was like, there's no gorilla that big. It's definitely going to be fake.
Yeah, because you can just go to the local zoo and find a 100-foot tall gorilla to play King Kong. I'm sure he gets lots of work these days.
Well, anyway, I think all in all, wrapping up the movie, I think we covered everything that I can think. Oh, yeah, actually there is one more thing I wanted to talk about real quickly. They did a really nice tribute in this to Leonard Nimoy and the old cast. And it was kind of sad seeing that this was Anton Yelkin's last movie. That was very, very tragic. And the way that they handled it was really good. I don't know what they're going to do in the fourth movie, whether they're going to try to replace Chekhov, which has precedent, or whether they're going to work in his death. In some way, there's a part of me that hopes that they don't replace him, but instead just work that into the story, because he did a very good job as Chekhov.
Well, didn't they do that with Star Trek, was it 6, where I think James Doohan, the guy who played the original Scotty, no, that was...
No.
That was something else. I could have sworn they worked in something where one of the original cast members had died, and then they tried to work that into the story. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I'm
Either
not
way.
sure offhand, but I'll be curious to see where that goes. And that was someone who is taken obviously much too soon. The Leonard Nimoy tribute did kind of make me tear up just a little bit, as did the scene where I don't think this is a spoiler, but the new Spock pulls out a picture, and it's a picture of the old original series crew.
Yep.
On the brig, and so that bridge in the brig.
From one of the movies. I think it was like the fourth or the fifth one.
Well, they spend enough time in the brig in some of those.
Only that was in. I think that was the fifth one. Yeah.
Oh, one more funny story. So we went to lunch afterward, and we were discussing different Star Trek episodes. And James asked me, he said, "Well, there was that one Star Trek episode where they thought that Scotty was the murderer." And I said, "Oh yes, the one where Piglet does the voice of Jack the Ripper." There's this little kid who's looking at us "Oh, okay, smaller one." No, the actor, the actor who does the voice of Piglet.
Crushing childhood. Oh, the fun things of being adults.
I felt so bad. And no, Piglet is seriously Jack the Ripper.
That's why they never found him. He wasn't born yet.
Alright, but anyway, so, it was a good movie. I definitely recommend that you see it if you enjoy Star Trek. It was worth it to see it on the screen. Yep,
just fantastic seeing the characters come to life, embracing the roles in a familiar yet fresh way. Basically setting the bar very, very high for doing remakes, and hopefully indicating good things to come for not only this series, but also other movies, taking inspiration from this movie, and using it to shore up some of the prevailing weaknesses that have been more revealed across the past 10 years, and seeing what they do with it.
Yep. I still want a better villain. Alright. See y'all later.
Bye.